Whoa.
Wood block.
Triangle.
It's fun being in the band because when you watch movies and you hear the music in the background, you can recognize the instrument. I was watching Home Alone the other night, and they're going through the basement when the guy gets hit in the head with iron. You know what instrument was playing?
Oboe. I don't know.
Oboe. Yep.
Was it really?
Yep.
There was nothing cooler than being in the OU band, you know, when you just first come out at the beginning and you're surrounded by 300 people playing their instrument. It was just the coolest.
My first time in the OU band, I was struck by the fact that there were more people in the stadium than were in my hometown that I had just moved from.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jane played oboe. Jane played the oboe.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. This is like one of those conversation starter cards. Who knew?
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Beller, it's your turn. Are you a secret musician?
I played cornet when I was in the 5th and 6th grades and gave it up after that.
What'd you say you played?
I think you said cornet.
What did you say you played?
Cornet, it's a small version of a trumpet.
Right.
The coronet. I dated a guy whose dad was really proficient in the French horn. Does that count for anything? We didn't even have a band at my school.
The French horn is one of those instruments that's really hard to play, but man, once you master it, it's a gorgeous instrument.
It was lovely.
What I did do was, in fact, my oldest daughter is 49 today. When she was like about 13 or 14, she was playing piano all the time. And I didn't know how to converse with her about it. So I secretly went to OU and took 3 semesters, 1-hour semester of adult group piano, learned barely how to play, found the simplest version of Für Elise that I could find because that was her favorite, and sat down with her one day and just started playing it, and her jaw dropped. She had no idea I was doing that. But
Cool.
I'm probably one of the few people who their entire undergraduate transcript at OU is 3 hours of A in adult group piano.
What a great dad, though, to do that.
I do. I think that's one of
Awesome.
the sweetest stories I've ever heard. Oh, happy birthday to your daughter.
Well, thank you.
There are easier ways to do that, Jack.
There are now.
Never too late.
Well, if it's okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Mary,
Okay.
are you going to play for us today?
I am. That was for you, Jack. A little quote of Für Elise.
Thank you, Mary. Awesome. Okay, is Bob Usry with us today? I haven't seen Bob. Virginia, would you mind stepping in and giving the invocation? Virginia, I'm trying to unmute you. Virginia, I can't hear you. If you're speaking, you're muted.
Maybe we each ought to do a little silent prayer on our own.
That's a good idea. How about Glenda? Glenda, would you mind giving the invocation?
I'll be glad to.
Thank you.
Bow with me. Heavenly Father, we just love you so much, and we love our friends, our Rotarian friends. It's been fun this morning just talking. Dear Lord, I ask your blessing on each and every one. I thank you for this opportunity with the Zoom that we can get together. And we just thank you so much for all you've done. Keep us all safe. Make this virus go away. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Glenda.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jonathan, you have the Pledge of Allegiance in the four-way test.
How about that? Well, let's pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thanks, Jonathan. It's the Jonathan Winders Day. Do we have any guests with us today? I saw one, but I think that was Cheryl, Rover's wife. Okay, do we have any happy dollars?
I do. I've got 5. This weekend, finally got out of Norman, crossed the Red River, went down to Texas, and spent the whole weekend with my daughter and son-in-law and grandchildren, and got to see them for the first time in months, and got to see 2 of my grandkids play in a tennis tournament, and they're in like 5th and 6th grade, and they both beat high school players playing tennis. So it was just fun time, but just went by too fast. So
nice, very nice. Do we have other happy dollars?
I put mine in the chat, but I'll just go ahead and say it. So this is April. I have 5 happy dollars in honor of Glenda. For most of you probably know, Glenda's been putting a lot of work into the zone summit that's coming up next month, and it's had to be, of course, moved to a virtual summit, and she's just done a great job organizing that and keeping trying to keep positive about it all. So I just want to honor her and say thank you to her for all her work.
Anybody else?
I have one, well, 2. We taped April and Dick Pryor for the Zone Institute last week, and it came out wonderful. I was so pleased how it did. And what we're having is 2 different community service projects that's going to be centered. And so everybody sign up, if nothing else, just to see that portion of it. And you should be getting it if you haven't already. And it's so easy to sign up. It's called the Zone Summit. And be sure to see the part about April and Dick Pryor. They did a superb job. And then donate to them. We have Positive Tomorrow from Oklahoma City, and then of course Food and Shelter.
Linda, can you remind us when that summit is?
October 10th.
October 10th.
Should
okay.
be getting some kind of notice from our governor, so you could sign up. And if not, I'm sure that we can get David Shirley to figure out how to get it to you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other happy dollars?
So I've got
Hey.
one. Go ahead, Michael.
I am out walking the Lake Thunderbird Dam, and it is absolutely beautiful this morning. So that's good for $1. But the other $1 I want to give is because last week I had an emergency appendectomy, and everything turned out okay. I came home Saturday and doing fine, nothing to worry about.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I've
Jeff?
got one. Sure.
Okay.
My mother, Dorothy Sullivan, over this past weekend was named a national treasure for the Cherokee Nation. And she was named that for her artworks that she's done over the years that have depicted and preserved some of the heritage of the Cherokee Nation as they marched from the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma and so forth. So anyway, it was a great honor for her. There were 4 named this year, and she was one of them. So we're really proud of her.
Awesome. Very nice. Very nice. And what's her name again, Jeff?
Dorothy Sullivan.
Dorothy Sullivan. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, anybody else? Let's see one chat. Let's see. Okay, as far as announcements go, thank you to everyone who participated in the crossing guard. It was a lot of fun. It was not as many kids as before, but that's okay. We got out there and made a difference. If you still have your sign and your vest, you can return those to the community service building to Christy Moore, or you can return it to my office at OEC right behind Hobby Lobby. You can just come in the front lobby and just drop it off. The ladies at the front desk will come and take it from you. So if you still have your crossing guard signs and vests, Terry said that's one of the hardest things is it's great when everybody participates, but then getting them back afterwards is sometimes a little bit of a challenge. And Terry's going to be traveling for the next 3 weeks. So, but we're collecting those and we'll hold them for him. So another announcement, we have a board meeting this Friday. We're going to do it via Zoom again. And I'll be sending out that link today or tomorrow. And so anybody who wants to participate in that, please feel free. And do we have any other announcements? Okay, well, we can move on to our program. Jonathan Winders is our own member here. Whoops, one too many pages. He's going to tell us about, he's going to visit with us today about the funeral industry and how it's been impacted due to COVID. So, Jonathan, I'm going to quit sharing my screen. Do you have a PowerPoint?
Yeah, I do. I'm
okay.
Pulling it up now.
Let me see if I can figure out how to show it.
I think I just forced you off.
Okay, great.
Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Well, so it's been my experience just being who I am and what I do that more often than not, I'll tell you guys something, but you guys have way more questions and different topics than I will go to. So what I'm trying to do is to just give you guys just a general information about what a funeral director does, and then I'll give you some information about COVID, and then we'll open up to questions because that's where the meat of this will come from, just as experience. Well, as you can see, or you know, this is what I do. Oftentimes people think it's depressing. They try to avoid it. A lot of people don't want to be near me or want to know what I do. As soon as I tell people what I do, that's either a huge, huge conversation ender, or oftentimes it is a big conversation starter. So we'll see how this goes today. We have lots of titles. I have a degree. I have 2 licenses. I'm a licensed embalmer. I'm a licensed funeral director. And we have tons of names that people call us: funeral directors, embalmers, undertakers, morticians. I like to use the word mortician often because that's just kind of people know that one most and know kind of that it's kind of creepy, but that's just kind of the way it works out best. A planner, a counselor, a mediator, and if you look on my not shared screen, last responder. Anyways. So, us funeral directors, we come in all shapes and sizes. We're not creepy, but there's always the stigma. We're dark, bad apples, creepy, scary people. I have to tell you, the funeral directing community is a very small group. You all know that I just moved funeral homes. I moved to funeral homes and I had people from Texas calling me and thanking me. So it's just a really tight-knit community. And so we know each other quite well. That being said, it's not true. Most caring and friendly people you can meet, like you may know some of these people. So yeah, it's not a scary topic. It's just more of a, people are avoiding it because they don't like the idea of death. We all see death, but oftentimes we only see death later in life or one or two times in life. Back in the days, you would see much more death. People would die at an earlier age, so you were more commonly known to meet the funeral director. This times nowadays, most of the times as a family, I will see grandma and grandpa. I won't often see grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, sister. Maybe throughout the career it would come that way, but that family only really experiences one or two deaths before their own death. It's just a matter of us being more healthy. I could tell you a lot about us in general. When you cry, we want to cry. Often we take on the burdens of other families' worries. I can say that we live on genuine appreciation, not the money. Oftentimes I'm just totally distracted with work and come home and I can't. It's an idea that families are hurting more than anyone I'm around. And so it is my job, or it's our idea, to try and calm, warmth, appreciate that person. Sometimes we take it on ourselves, but not to say I'm a depressed person or anything of that nature. Just know that we want to care. We want to cry too. Our main job is not to take care of the deceased. It's to take care of the living people that are left, to help them, guide them on the way the rest of the time that they can. Excuse me. COVID. So that's kind of the main topic of what's going on today. COVID is definitely affected us. It's not the first disease or something to come through the funeral industry and just kind of mess with us, but it is a different bird. I have to be very aware of my staff. So often the hardest thing for families that I've had so far is dad passes of COVID, and then I tell mom, unfortunately, I can't come see you. I need to keep away from you. Let me do everything via phone, via internet. We'll sign some paperwork. We'll do this long distance. A long distance relationship is not a good relationship for Jonathan in the funeral industry. We want to hug. We want to appease. We want to take care of people. So this is very difficult. But the most difficult is not my part. It's them. It takes some time before mom realizes it's me, mom, that Jonathan is scared of. I am the one who has possibly the COVID, and I can't get out. I shouldn't get out. I shouldn't go to the funeral home. I shouldn't see people. That's the hardest for people to take in, to realize, hey, I was with dad when he died. Oh, I'm the one that needs to be avoided. I'm the one that needs to be. And so that just getting people to click that I'm not being mean. I'm trying to keep you safe and you not to expose other people. That is often the most difficult. And you can see when it clicks and everything goes, but that's difficult. So obviously that's me trying not to expose myself or my staff to the COVID. Now we are having tons and tons and tons of service limitations. Obviously we have to have social distance. We have to have masks. We basically at this point in time, we're just going to talk about what the church or the building that we would want to do our ceremony at, they're the ones that are limiting the exposure. They're the ones that's limiting size right now. So most of the time we call the church, if we're having a service, most of the time we'll call the church or the building and say, how big can we have? What are our limitations? So that is really currently the state of things. Before we couldn't have anything, but we are able to have ceremonies now, which is good. We're getting in the right direction, but we are social distanced and reduced sizes. With that being said, oftentimes there are still buildings that are saying, no, we can't have anybody and we're not doing that. So, some families are having to not have ceremonies. We are able to delay them until we can, but most families are choosing not to do that. Document delays. So everybody wants the old famous death certificate as soon as possible. Well, unfortunately, health department has been closed until recently, and so they didn't want us coming. That's where we retrieve the death certificates. So everything nowadays has to go through the mail. And so that's one document delay that really people want, and it's rightly so. That gets things going. Not, just getting newspaper article, the obituary in the paper's taking a little bit longer. Everything's just taking longer, and which adds a little more stress to those poor families. Again, I talked about us wanting to, we're a hugging group. We want to care for people. Well, unfortunately, we cannot. In fact, if you are able to make it into our building, you must be temperature tested and sanitized and fogged, same as everywhere else, but it's just unfriendly and we don't appreciate that. I'm sure you guys don't as well. Another hard thing is having to tell a family no. It is the case where someone passes and they're not wanting to embalm, they just want to do a cremation or something of that nature. And as a professional in this field, I have to tell you, no, you cannot see your mom one more time. And that is rough. I get the feeling of how people in the hospitals right now are having to say, nope, one visitor or no visitors and all that. It's rough when it's the end of days and you just want to see grandma one more time. And I have to tell you, no. Now that's a big pill to swallow for many people, myself included. So those are the biggest issues with COVID. It's hard to get a broad stroke of everything, but we as funeral directors and embalmers, we're still doing everything that you would normally think about. Just things are delayed a lot more and smaller versions of it, if you will. So here comes the big part. You guys, I know, have a billion questions, so let's just hear them.
Jonathan, this is Polly. Why is it that the family cannot see the deceased person anymore?
So you can still see him if we've embalmed. Now, say it's a cremation family, he's not been treated or she has not been treated. There's no sanitation version that takes care of the COVID virus without embalming. Even when we do embalm someone, however, it is a little sketchy because the embalming process does kill COVID. There's no worries there about the deceased, but it's his wife that comes in the building who has been with him. That's the scary part for that portion.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Jonathan.
Okay. Yes.
Go on, Glenda. I'll go after you.
Sorry. You said you changed companies. Where are you at now?
Oh, I apologize. Those that didn't know, I was at Havenbrook. I have moved to Tribute with Shane and Bruce and all them over there. I've been there 3 weeks or a little longer than that, about a month, a little over a month now.
And where are you at? Where are they at now? Are they still at the same place on 24th?
Yes, still on 24th in that the office building looking place for now.
Okay.
The COVID has delayed things even more, if you guys might imagine, for building our building. I've seen the plans. There is a building. We just have not been able to start.
Jonathan, I was going to ask you, if someone passes away and you have the services, are a certain number of people allowed to come to the service, to the gravesite? What's going on with that respect now?
So each place we go to has different rules at this point. So if I go to Oklahoma City to bury, or at a church in Oklahoma City, their restrictions are less than Norman. If we go to Oklahoma City, we basically just call the place we're going to, whether it be a church or the gravesite or whatever it is, and they regulate how many can come. So unfortunately, there's no solid answer. Some churches are like, we have to do a maximum of 25% of people that are allowed in the building. Some churches are, you can have family only. Some churches are, we can't have them. It's just really, unfortunately, it's just really a matter of where you want to go. We got to find out what they'll allow.
Does the city of Norman have some policy besides the churches locally, like less than 50 or?
Right now, we're pretty much okay to do however many we want as long as we social distance, except for whatever the place requires.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan, this is Katie, and you had mentioned early on, excuse me, you said there were other diseases that came through that had similar impacts to COVID, or you kind of fleetingly said something about, yeah, we've seen this with other diseases. What other stuff have you seen that has had a similar situation?
Do you guys, the one that comes closest to mind when I was in as a funeral director is, remember Crutchfield-Jacobs disease?
Yeah, mad cow.
Mad cow disease, yes. That one came through. And it wasn't nearly as widespread as this, and it wasn't nearly as, I had 16 patients or anything of that nature, but it was very strict in how things were taken care of. In fact, those policies are still in place today if someone does pass of that. That's one that I dealt with. Other funeral directors, been longer. Even the common flu has affected us in a way that it had to have changed things before good vaccines and stuff were in play. Another thing that really affects us is the bombing or tornadoes, because all of a sudden many people have passed and many people are needing help of us, and the industry is really designed for the consistent, simple, this is how many people die in a year kind of thing. But, as you know, a tornado goes through and rips up the whole South Oklahoma City. That delays paperwork. That delays, similar ideas and similar things get messed up, just like COVID has done for us.
Wow, thank you. That I hadn't heard about Crutchfield-Jacobs. That's really interesting. I didn't know that was an issue, but it makes sense.
I mean, we try to, not make it a public thing, of course, because we don't want to cause any trouble, but I have had cases.
Wow.
Jonathan, I have a question.
Yeah, Aaron.
Apologize. I don't understand how closely related this is, but in terms of organ donations right now, with COVID going around, has that affected anything in your industry?
No. See, what happens with organ donation is when you pass at the hospital or you pass somewhere, then before they call us, you fill out a form or whatever, and the nurses come to you and ask if that's the case. Do you know if Dave wants to donate organs? If so, fill out this thing. They take care of all that before they call me. from what I can tell, I'm getting the same amount of families that have donated organs that haven't, but I'm sure there's extra tests and before they even are eligible, if you will. But that's before. Unfortunately, I'm a last responder. That would be a second to last responder.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Jonathan, I have a question that's not COVID related.
Sure.
My mother passed away in 2002. And so when she was buried, they had the headstone put up and had my mom and my dad and everything. And then he remarried. And unfortunately, that lady passed away. And so he's got a second headstone in the Noble Cemetery. So my mom is buried in Woodward, and his second headstone is in the Noble Cemetery. And he's married a third time. And I'm sure when he passes, his current wife has strong feelings because they've been married for 10 years now about how do you handle that whenever a person, you divide them up?
So yeah, that could be that's a strictly family question. I can give you a guidance. You as a family must decide. One thing you could do is, I don't know if Dad would want cremation. You could do a cremation and put parts in each three. You could put something in each hole, each grave. Dad's favorite book, sentimental thing in each of the other two places. I've seen them just being empty. It's just kind of, you as a family just gotta kind of decide, maybe chit chat with Dad a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So Jonathan, my husband and I have a question here this morning, so I'm going to let Darren ask his question.
Hi, Darren.
Good morning.
Morning.
What about the idea of I guess the trend I'm seeing of more environmentally friendly disposal of our bodies?
So yeah,
there's stuff and mushrooms and other things.
So there's
trend in Oklahoma.
We have one, maybe two. I think I know for sure of one. I've been there. One cemetery that is one of those cemeteries. Essentially, we take, I think it's north of Guthrie, if I remember right, and no casket. The deceased is wrapped in a shroud or a sheet, a white cloth. A hole is hand dug. We place the deceased in the hole. Shovels over, no headstone, no marker, nothing. You get a GPS coordinates, and that is one way. Okay. Another way that it's not quite past the regulations yet, but there's this alkaline hydrolysis. It's a form of decomposition with fluids instead of like a cremation. So instead of a gas furnace, oxidized burning, it's a chemical reaction they place people in, and you get like a powder out of it, versus a cremation you tend to get bone fragments. It's not really ashes, by the way, guys. It's not really ashes, it's more bone fragments. And then so there's that. But it hasn't came through in Oklahoma yet. We have two hydrolysis machines in the state, but I think they've only tested them on animals and they're not allowed to do humans yet.
And who do I have to get to? Can I get Rod Stanridge to introduce that legislation?
Maybe. I don't know how that's going to work. I think there's a lot of fear in it because it's new and, it's not traditional. We are burial or cremation, so who knows?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I got an odd thing for you guys. So back in the days before embalming, there was the fear that you would be buried alive, and so they have these special caskets back in the days. You would be in your casket, and there's like this tube with a rope or some sort of device that rang all the way up to the earth, that's the surface of the earth, down into the casket. And the thought was if you were ever buried alive, you could ring the bell. The rope goes up to the surface, and there was a bell up there, and you would ring the bell. And that's where the term graveyard shift came from. There were people who sit out in the graveyard listening for bells. So it's an odd little note.
A kind of cool history lesson, though.
Jonathan, I've heard about the bell story, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've also heard that sometimes the decomposition of the body in the casket would make the body bloat, or the gases and things like that, and there would be times that the person was actually dead, but the rope would be jostled in some way, and the bell would be rung, even though nobody's.
That would make sense, because the decomposition process is it's what it sounds like. It's decomposition, and then there's gases, there's fluids, there's movement, there's earth pressure coming down, there's tons of different variables, and I could see that would happen. Now, an embalmed body's different. They are pretty sterilized, pretty non-decomposition kind of thing. They embalmed Lincoln. They did him more than we do now, harder, if you will, than we do now. But they traveled him on a train all over the United States for 6-8 months or something like that before they buried him, and he was still fine looking.
Wow. Jonathan, what's something that, as someone who's been in the industry for as long as you have, what's a regulation or a policy or something about the process that you think needs to be changed? If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing to make your life better, COVID or no, what would it be?
Good question. Never thought about that. I think maybe not a policy, but what would, if somehow we could get out that we as an industry are not scary. I see people at the grocery store, and they'll make eye contact with me, and then they're like, oh, that's the guy, and then they avoid me. So I think if somehow we could make people realize that everybody's going to see me or see one of us, and that we're not terrible or scary. I think people are just afraid of death itself, and I'm associated with death. I think if we could get out that, we're not all. In fact, I know no one that I wouldn't let grandma be taken care of by. We're in it to take care of people. We're a serving community. But, we know that people avoid us.
I think that's really interesting. I'm just sorry, I don't mean to hog the mic, but my family, my personal family, my mom, my brother, and I are like, we have the attitude, no one gets out alive, and so let's plan while we can, and talking about death and the inevitable is not morbid. My husband's mom, on the other hand, is very much of the opposite philosophy, and she doesn't want to talk about it, and she kind of, I think, has that same attitude that you described about the people in the grocery store. And I just it's just an observation on society. I think that's interesting. I'm sure you've encountered all kinds of people in your profession, from sort of the denial, we're not going to die, or to the let's get a plan. I think, do you have any comments on that?
No, you're exactly right. That's exactly what happens, and that I can't even expound on it. It's perfect. That's what happens. I have families that are ready. This is, Mom has been talking about this. We got it all planned out here. You have a prearrangement. She has a prearrangement. She's picked out her songs. Everything's lovely. We get to make that service beautiful. And then we have families like, I'm not going to die ever. And then they die. And then we have to plan everything from scratch. And families are worried, hey, would Dad really have liked this song? Would Dad have wanted this? Those kind of questions. And so we got the whole gambit. Then we got to throw in the, brother and sister that have different ideas. And suddenly Jonathan is a police officer trying to
Oh, no.
keep the violence down.
Is that where your mediation skills come in? Because I thought, what are you mediating? We've got someone, the ultimate mediation has been done, but that makes perfect sense. You're mediating the living, trying to decide what they want for the dead, the deceased.
Oh yeah, that is a daily occurrence. Well, maybe not daily, but yes, I am a fire putter outer, if you will.
Wow. Yeah. Huh. Thank you.
But
That's interesting.
Jonathan, I got another question.
Sure.
I noticed that several of the, I guess all of them have what's called ambassadors, people that I guess come in on a part-time basis. Can you talk a little bit more about them?
So those are the gentlemen that help us out at services. Well, they're ladies too. I have some ladies as well. They're usually just some retired people that need something to do, that love to share and take care of people. I don't know if you guys, you guys know. You know Bill. Bill's an ambassador, in fact, Bill Wallace. And yeah, we use them to be door greeters or answer, simple questions, or guide people down to the pews, or they move flowers, they drive limos, all the help that I need, any kind of help I need. And it's so awesome because generally speaking, they're just retired people that just want to serve. And it's not about the money. It's just about taking care of people. And I can't say enough about them. And on that note, not saying enough about people, I cannot say enough goodness about hospice companies. They do more than we realize and take care of families more than we realize. Until you need a hospice company, you don't think about that either. Side note, sorry. But yeah, ambassadors are awesome. People call them part-timers. We call them ambassadors just because they're ambassadors of the community and, take care of things for us.
Well, I know the ones that the ones I've met are all super people. So y'all do a great job of picking great ambassadors.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Jonathan, Jack Beller, a curiosity from my profession. When you have someone cremated, what do you do with the plates and screws and artificial joints and that sort of thing that doesn't cremate?
So part of the process of cremation is I have this little questionnaire, and I go, does mom have any batteries, like a pacemaker, any of that nature? Yes, no, okay, because we have to remove batteries. They cause an explosion, and the poor crematory operator will, they don't need that in their lives. And then the next question is metals. Does dad have any screws, titanium hip, da 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 da? Yes, he does. Well, would you like those back? If not, I can recycle them. We have a company that comes and takes them in. Most of the time, we just end up recycling them. But we've had several families say, yes, we want dad's hip, dad's screws, whatever. In fact, one of the families I served, they wanted them back to make fishing lures for dad. So they were going to redo them and make fishing. Dad was a big fisherman. So yes, that is a thing. And yes, I got to get those taken care of.
Do you see an increase, or how is it with more people being cremated or embalmed, or 50-50, or
so Norman, where I am currently, where we are currently, it is definitely 65% cremation. Now, that's not to say that's all they're doing. We're still doing 65% ultimately is being cremated versus buried, but they're still having services or memorial services or some sort of honoring the loved one. And that's what I encourage. Even families that come in and say, we can only afford just for you to pick up dad, cremate him, give me the basic urn and a death certificate. You know what? That's fine. I certainly can help you with that. I do want you, however, to do some sort of memorialization for him. I don't care if you guys meet up at a Golden Corral and have dinner and just talk about dad, some sort of memorialization for dad. But most of the time, families are, doing a real traditional kind of study of at a church or something of that nature. But we as an industry do encourage people to please, even if it's not through the funeral home or not through another funeral home or something, please do something for. It's not necessarily for Steve who passed. It's for you who remembers Steve. But yeah, generally speaking, Norman is more cremation than burial at this point. However, rural funeral homes are still strong in burial.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
It's good to see you, Jonathan.
Hello.
I miss sitting at the table with you. I prepared a 3-ring binder with tabs, and in case I became incapacitated or when I pass away.
Yeah.
And the different categories are all my contact information is printed out, my memberships and affiliations, documents and records, my health and medical care, those people who, my physicians and so forth, and my medicines and all of that, and my bills and what my bills are and how I pay them, all other financial and other steps to take upon my death, and what my assets and liabilities are. And then I planned my memorial service, and I asked Doris Wedge to write my obituary, which is in this document, and my pets and, you know, their doctors and any meds they're on or anything. And then I did a household inventory. And I was hoping that all of these things would help those that would have to care for me if I was unable to care for myself or when I pass away. And I got the idea. I ordered a book from Amazon. It said When I'm Gone. And so I read the book, and then I went through and pulled out the things that I thought were helpful, you know, for me to put in my binder. So anyway, I just think everybody should do that at some point and at some level.
Well, man, I could commend you for that study. That binder is gold, as far as I'm concerned.
Where's your binder, Judy? Does anybody know where your binder is, Judy?
Well, it's, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I can tell everybody at this point, even one little step that you do, if you just have one of those sections of that binder, if you just have the, you know, where are the insurance policies? You have one little thing done. It's amazing how much help that is for your loved ones who are left. Having a whole binder with everything is, that's fantastic. But even just having an obit started, or, hey, this is the picture I want to use. This is what I want my makeup to look like. This is what I want my hair to look like. I want to have this, you know, any little tiny little detail you give will help out with the rest of the family in that process.
Jonathan, as far as cremation goes, at some point, I may have asked you this before, but do you have to send the body somewhere to be cremated? Or is there a place in Norman?
So as of right now, Norman does not allow anybody to have a crematory. So there is not one in Norman. Our crematory is in Purcell. It's owned by, we own it. The other two funeral homes in town, they have, let's see, one's in Midwest City and one's in Choctaw. So there's none in Norman, just so everybody knows.
What is the grounds for Norman saying no?
Well, it's the stigma, this fear of, you know, that smoke coming up and what is that? And we'll see, like, we'll just think about Havenbrook's kind of in that neighborhood. None of those neighbors will want that. Primrose is right there next to the hospital. They don't want any kind of smoke blowing up into the hospital area. Theoretically, though, where we'll be building should be good to go. Oh, I see Jeff. My mother, prepaid funerals at Havenbrook. I've talked with Mother and Shane about Deidre about. Let me have to join you. Okay, the process is very simple. We just so Jeff's wanting to move a funeral home, move his prearranged funeral from one funeral home to another funeral. That is awesome. That happens all the time. Don't worry about that kind of thing. Generally speaking, prearranged funerals are an insurance policy, and so the funeral home itself does not own that. It's with a separate company. And so if that funeral home burns down, or that funeral home, or you move to Texas, and now you need to move it, it's totally easy to do. We call this the company that's in charge of it. They, usually just a form. The accepting funeral home signs the form. The sending funeral home signs the form, and it's moved over. Very simple.
Jonathan, this is Sam. My mother passed away in February. She was 98, and it was not unexpected, but she lived in Alva, and the interment was going to be in my little hometown of Burlington, the cemetery that's outside of town. But it was very simple. My sister and I talked it. She was cremated. The mortuary held the ashes, and we were able, and again, since we're just in the midst of the virus and everything going on, those of you that grew up in rural communities, funerals were usually kind of a command performance, and everybody in the area. Well, they thankfully did not do that, but we were able to have a very nice service, graveside, with some family members that we socially distanced, and a couple that did come in from out of town. And, it worked very, very well. And so I think it could have been the simple thing also. It wouldn't have to be a rural cemetery, but just for those that possibly may be going through those questions and that trauma of not having the traditional type of service, this worked really well for us.
And that being said, that's what most families are doing right now. I keep saying that we're still going to churches. We are still doing those things, but most families right now, just during this, they know that they don't want to pull their friends and endanger their friends by making them come to a ceremony. So most families are doing a 12, 15 person, just invite those. Let's go to the cemetery at 2:00 on Tuesday and get us a minister and do a simple ceremony that way. And that's generally what most families are doing. So good point. I forgot to mention that.
This is probably a dumb question, but when someone is cremated and then there's a ceremony, do they still use a casket, or do they just have the urn there, or how do you?
Okay, so when somebody's cremated, you could do it two different ways. You can have a full service with mom there, embalmed, viewing everything, and then at the end, instead of just going to the cemetery, we kind of dismiss there, and then I will take mom to the crematory and do the cremation. We can do it that way, or we can do what they call memorial service. So the difference between a funeral service and a memorial service is a funeral service, the deceased person is there. A memorial service, it's ashes or nothing there. The person is not there. So in that case, I would take mom into my care. We can have, a visitation or something with her if you wanted to, or not. And then I do the cremation, and then we have a memorial service. So a service later, less time restraints. We can do it sooner or later. We can do it in 6 months, 2 months, 2 weeks. So that's a memorial service without the person present.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Katie doesn't think I'm creepy at all. That's nice. She's experienced me talking to me when I had the red phone call. Basically someone has passed and I gotta go.
Well, Jonathan, you were right. We were all filled with questions and probably could sit and ask questions for another hour. But thank you very much for being
Absolutely.
our presenter today. It's been fascinating.
Well, you guys know where I am, and you can always ask me questions anytime. I don't hold anything back.
Thank you. All right, Rotarians, have a wonderful week. see board members at the board meeting on Friday and go out and open the opportunities.